Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says comments to avoid in long standing ties. The article here is speaking about political parties and their leaders making commentary on the domestic front about international countries which could have long term implications on the bilateral front. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. Recently, we have had a small misunderstanding between India and Singapore. Why? That is because we have the Chief Minister of Delhi who said that there is a new form of COVID 19 variant in Singapore, and he suspected that this COVID 19 variant could be dangerous and disastrous for the children. So, what does he do? He asks the central government to impose travel restrictions from Singapore, and at the same time, he requests the central government to provide vaccine alternatives for the children. This is where Singapore government got little offended. Why did they get little offended? That is because there is no variant called as Singapore variant, but the words and usage made by the Chief Minister of Delhi said that it was Singapore variant, which is where the Singapore government said it denies all these variants that is present in Singapore, as Singapore does not have any COVID-19 variant. In fact, it went to the next level of even saying that it will impose one of the domestic laws on the Chief Minister of Delhi called as the Protection from Online Falsehood and Manipulation Act. What is this domestic law all about? This domestic law basically ensures that there is prevention of the fake news that is spread in the domestic circuit of the Singapore. So what is happening here? Because the Singapore government senses that this is a misinformation, this is a false information, this is a fake news. That is why it went to an extent of even saying that they may impose this domestic law of Singapore on Chief Minister of Delhi. So what is happening here? There is on one front the domestic communication that was happening between the Delhi Chief Minister and the central government. But since it involved a third country, that is a Singapore, this could have impacted India as well as Singapore relationship. This is where the author brings into another perspective. Recently, what we have seen is the Citizenship Amendment Act. We have the Central Home Minister, and there are different political parties as well as political leaders from a political party who started commenting on a particular country, and that country in reference is Bangladesh. So, what exactly happened? Because of the Citizenship Amendment Act, political parties, in fact, the Home Minister of the country, even commented about Bangladesh in a very negative limelight. This is where the author says, in the past, we have established credible relationship between India and Bangladesh. So such commentary made on the domestic front, on the internal front, because of the domestic application of the particular party, it might have negative impact and could cause damages to India and foreign relationship. This is where the author says that going forward, whenever there is a chief minister or a minister, whether there is a political party which is in power or the political party which is in opposition, whenever we are addressing a foreign nation just because of domestic politics, this should not have impact on the foreign policy. The author brings into picture the beautiful journey and relationship that we have had with respect to Bangladesh. With respect to Bangladesh, the author goes on to say that we have had the advantage of balance of trade. India is comparatively on an advantageous position when it comes to trade. Why? Because we have more exports to Bangladesh than our imports. So the balance of trade in terms of economics, India is holding a much better advantageous position. The author takes into picture that Bangladesh goes through drought as well. They also face issues of smuggling as much as we are facing as well. So comparatively, when you consider the economic, geopolitical and geographical conditions, India is in a much better position than its eastern neighbor Bangladesh, says the author. and with the Sheikh Hasina government in picture, where she has established herself as a credible leader in Bangladesh, she is helping India in every nook and corner as well. The author takes into picture some of the examples during this particular conversation. What are those? Let's say, for example, the minute we have the Sheikh Hasina government in Bangladesh, she was able to root out the terrorists who were against India. Let me give you some of the examples. We have ULFA, we have the National Democratic Front of Bodoland, we have the National Liberation Front of Tripura, we also have All Tripura Tiger Force as well. These are some of the forces which are operating in the northeastern part of India. Since they are operating in the northeastern part of India, they have remained a threat to the Indian forces. But because we have a good friend in the name of Bangladesh with Prime Minister as Sheikh Hasina, she is able to break all these radical fundamentalist terrorist organizations. So what have they done? They have been operating in Hobbyganj, Maulvi Bazar, Chittagong or Sattacheri districts of Bangladesh. But in spite of they operating there, what India has been able to do is to break all their funding mechanisms. In the past, they had conducted transboundary criminal activities, they were engaging in smuggling of drugs, they were involved themselves in the fake Indian currency racket, and in fact, they were even exporting arms and ammunitions and were actively involved in the human trafficking as well. To bring an end to all this, it was the government of Sheikh Hasina who was able to stop the menace of fundamentalist organization. Apart from this, India and Bangladesh have also expanded the connectivity projects. India has been able to come up with projects like Maitri Setu, which has been able to connect Tripura with Bangladesh port. Added to this, there are about 1 lakh Indian nationals who are also working in Bangladesh as well. Such has been the relationship between India and Bangladesh, which has led to prosperous relationship between India and Bangladesh. So going forward, as of now, we have the free movement across the border between Nepal and Bhutan. In the near future, similar provisions may develop between India and Bangladesh, says the author. So going forward, whenever it is not only with respect to Bangladesh, it can be with any country as well. So political leaders and political parties, when they are addressing their domestic crowd, they have to keep in mind the repercussions, consequences and implications that could result on the foreign implication front. So what are we supposed to understand? That we have to ensure that respect is given to a foreign country, and at the same time, whenever a political party or its leader is speaking, they have to discourage those words and encourage the issues of bonhomie, camaraderie is what we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says digital tax tussles. What is this article all about? Before we understand, let's have a brief background to it. India has adopted digital services tax in the year 2020. What is the digital services tax? The DST basically imposes about 2% tax on the revenue generated from a broad range of digital services that are provided by the foreign companies. Let's say, for example, it can be Apple, or it can be Amazon, or it can be Google, or it can be Facebook. For all the services that they provide, we would be imposing about 2% taxation on this non-Indian, non-residential e-commerce operators. So what are we doing here? We are imposing taxation on those companies which are not originating in India, which are not being run by the Indian companies. As a result of which, what we are doing, we are imposing a separate set of taxation on all these companies which are not from India. And as a result, e-commerce operators are obligated to pay the taxation at the end of each quarter, and approximately, if we consider these companies and e-commerce companies from other countries, they are approximately paying about $55 million to India every year. This is where there are other countries similarly who have been also imposing what is called as the digital service tax. Let's take the example of United Kingdom, or Austria, or Spain, or Turkey, or Italy. In all these countries, once again, when you have United States of America or any other country's operations that are being spread in their country, they are once again imposing what is called as the digital service tax. So this digital service tax is not right, says United States of America. So United States of America conducted a 1 year long investigation into these digital services tax, where taxes were imposed on those companies which had its headquarters or bases in United States of America. So they said that such a move by these countries are discriminatory in nature. It will have adverse impact on the American commerce, and they were inconsistent with the international practices of taxation. This is where United States of America said that all these provisions imposed on the companies which are operating from United States of America were discriminatory in nature. As a result of this, United States of America has come up with a tariff plan which is retaliatory in nature, where US has announced that it will impose 25% tariffs on over 2 billion worth of imports from all these countries. So we have 5 countries: United Kingdom, Austria, Spain, Turkey, Italy, and India. So what has it said right now? That it will have what is called as retaliatory tariffs for all these countries which are exporting from these countries to United States of America. And with respect to India, United States of America has currently gone on to say that it will impose tariffs on 26 category of goods that are in the preliminary list of products that would be subject to additional tariffs as well. So this will be a retaliatory tariffs or the taxes that will be imposed by United States of America on all these countries exports to United States of America. However, United States of America has also clarified that it may have to introduce such a tariffs in the near future after they have the conversation with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. As of now, this tariff plan will not be implemented for the next 6 months, but in the next 6 months, it wants to communicate, speak up to the Organization of the Economic Cooperation, which happens to be OECD, and ultimately impose these tariffs, says United States of America. As of now, it has the plan. It said that it will implement it, but it has suspended temporarily and said it will implement this plan after 6 months after having the conversation with the OECD. So basically, this article currently goes on to say that if this comes into effect, India's exports like basmati rice, cigarette paper, cultured pearls, semi-precious stones, silver powder, silver articles and jewelry, gold mixed necklaces, and other things may have to face more tariffs down the lane, and ultimately it will impact the exports from India, says this article. So going forward, since we are suffering from the COVID-19, where the world is going through the menace of COVID-19, United States of America should not continue this tariff war, says this article. So basically, in order to protect the exporters and to ensure the tariff war does not occur during the period of COVID-19, the article goes on to say that such trade war should be completely eliminated and should not be imposed, says this article. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says significant progress in SDGs on clean energy health, says the NITI index. According to the SDG index released by NITI Aayog, it says that Kerala has topped when it comes to the sustainable developmental goals. Before we understand what the ranking is, let's have a brief idea about this sustainable development index. The sustainable development index, what it does, it categorizes states. It also looks into the union territories as well. For what? It checks whether these states and union territories have prospered on the social front, on the economic front, and also on the environmental front as well. So what are the parameters it evaluates? It looks into various parameters like health, like education, gender justice, economic growth. It looks into the ideas of climate change and environment as well. All these parameters will be evaluated and they'll be checked for the environment, economic empowerment and social empowerment, and ultimately a ranking will be given in the form of an index. So what does it do? The minute this ranking is given by Niti Aayog, what it will generate is a competitive spirit between the states as well as the union territories. This is what is called as competitive federalism. So there might be a particular state which might have evolved a particular strategy. The same can be given to another state. So what we have is a healthy competition between one state to another. This has been developed as a collaboration between the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, United Nations in India, and Global Green Growth Initiative as well. Now, when we look into the score, this basically has a score from 0 to 100. So, states and union territories will be given a score between 0 to 100. If it is close by to the 100, it means that the sustainable developmental goals can be achieved by that particular state and it is in process of accomplishing the sustainable developmental goals. If it is close by to 0, it means that that particular state or the union territory is comparatively lagging when it comes to accomplishment of the sustainable developmental goals. So what are these sustainable developmental goals? There are 17 in nature, but as of now, when you consider the index, what they have taken into picture is around 16. What are those? One is in reference to no poverty, zero hunger, good health, quality education, gender equality, clean water sanitation, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure, reducing the inequality, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions. All these parameters were considered and ultimately ranking were given to the states and union territories in India. Now, if we have to look into the ranking, the first that comes in this particular list happens to be Kerala, and after Kerala, what we have is Tamil Nadu and Himachal Pradesh. So the first state that we have is Kerala, followed by Tamil Nadu and Himachal Pradesh. On the other side, we also have Bihar, Jharkhand and Assam, which are poor performing states in comparison to these states. When you consider the union territory, what we have is Chandigarh, which has attained the top position, followed by Delhi. However, states have also shown improvements compared to the last year as well. So what has been the rise? When you consider the rise, there has been a significant improvement that we have seen when it comes to the clean energy in India, when it comes to the urban development and health prospects, but there has been a decline when it comes to industry innovation and infrastructure, as well as decent work and economic growth. So on few levels, there is increase when it comes to the economic activity. They've been able to accomplish the goals of sustainable developmental goals, and on the other side, when it comes to the industry, commerce and innovation and decent work and economic growth, there has been a decline in number of states. Added to this, the article goes on to picture in about the social equality. What is it about social equality? When you consider the index, this was introduced in the year 2018. In the year 2018, what this index had considered is what is called as the Palmer ratio, to understand if there was inequality that was persistent in the country. What is this Palmer ratio? As it denotes, it is a ratio. Ratio of what? 10% of the richest in the country by 40% of the poorest in the country. So a ratio will be calculated, the income would be calculated, and if it is close by to 1 or anything less than 1, it means that inequality in the society is not present, or it is not at all present in that particular state. But if it is greater than 1, it means there is presence of inequality in a particular country. So greater than 1 and greater than 1 and close by to any number after that, it means there is greater level of inequality in that particular country. So what is this Palmer ratio? Basically, this is the income of share of top 10% to that of the bottom 40%. It denotes the unequal societies that is present in the overall global community. Apart from this, when you go back to the year 2019, again, this particular index of sustainable developmental goals also considered what is called as the Gini coefficient. What is this Gini coefficient? This is nothing but it measures the inequality in the population. If the Gini quotient is close by to 1, it means the inequality is not present, and if it is close by to 1, it means that there is more inequality and the country's income is being earned by lesser number of people. So the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poor. So what it says is that in the year 2019, the focus was on Gini coefficient, and in the year 2018, the focus was on Palmer ratio. But in the year 2020, which is the current index that we are discussing, there is no such criteria that was employed. Instead, a greater weightage was given to the social indicators. What were these social indicators? One, it looked into the percentage of women, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe representatives in the state legislature and the Panchayati Raj. Added to this, the level of crime against the SC/STs were also considered, and the economic indicator that was taken into picture is the percentage of population in the lowest two wealth quintiles. These were some of the important add-ons that were considered in 2020, which was not present in 2018 and 19. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about NASA's missions. There are two missions that NASA is planning to consider. Both are in reference to Venus. So kindly remember, one happens to be Da Vinci, the other happens to be Veritas. What does Da Vinci stands for? It basically stands for Deep Atmosphere Venus Investigation of Noble Gases, Chemistry and Imaging. So do remember that Da Vinci is one of the missions by whom? By NASA. For what? For understanding what is the geology or the composition of Venus. So this particular mission basically tries to understand the Venus composition to see how the planet was formed, how it has evolved from the historical traditional perspective. So the mission basically tries to understand and measure the noble gases in Venus and other elements which are present in Venus, take the photographs of the geological feature so that they would be able to understand the historical, traditional and the evolvement of the Venus. Added to this, they have another mission called as Veritas, which stands for Venus Emissivity, Radio Science, INSAR, Topography and Spectrography. What does it do? It wants to understand the geological history of Venus. It wants to understand whether there are any tectonic activities. It wants to understand whether there are any volcanic activities in this particular region, and ultimately map the emissions from the Venus as well. It also wants to find out if there are any mineral resources in this particular region. So what is the significance of this particular study? This will basically help us understand how the planet had formed, how it has evolved over a period of time, and ultimately we would be in a much better position to understand how solar system has developed beyond Earth as well. Further, this particular study will also help us understand if there was life that was prevalent in the past as well. So this is the mission objective that has been undertaken by NASA in the present situation. Previously, we had Soviet Union's Venera series, NASA's Magellan mission, Japan's Akatsuki mission. All these missions basically wanted to understand the geography and the mechanisms behind Venus. Now the question for today as part of assignment is, Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system. You have to answer, why is Venus the hottest planet and not Mercury, which is close by to the sun? So please put all your answers on the comment section. Also remember, Venus along with the Uranus happens to be only two planets in our solar system which rotate from east to west. Most of the planets rotate from west to east, but only Venus and Uranus move from east to west. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says journalists need protection against sedition charges. This article here is speaking about sedition. We have a video that is recorded by Samacha, whose link will be given in the description box. So kindly look into the link and understand the entire nitty-gritties with respect to sedition. So this article currently has quashed the sedition case registered against journalist Vinod Dua. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. Words and actions of political figures on the domestic front may damage the cordial bilateral ties between countries. Explain the statement with the help of relevant examples. Sedition, a colonial era law often used to implicate citizens who are exercising democratic rights of dissent, should have no space in India's legal system. Do you agree? Justify. So please write both your answers on the comment section. Peer review. Do give positive feedback to your friends' answers. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.